I'm DaJuan Johnson. Welcome to the Think Bigger Actors podcast, where I share with you different kinds of talks and coachings and conversations with actors and industry professionals on thinking bigger. I hope these conversations will help you on your path to success, because I believe success is an inside job that starts with your mindset and the thoughts you hold dominant in your mind. Change your thoughts and you change your world. Your path to thinking bigger begins now. Sarah, how are you?
It is so good to see your face. I am great.
Good. I know you live in New York. I'm going to jump in real quick with a question. Like, how is it there right now with all the fires in Canada? I keep seeing pictures with from Facebook. Are those real?
Yeah.
Like, is it really that crazy?
It's real. It's better today. Today is, today is Thursday. Yeah, it's better today than it was yesterday. But yesterday, Wednesday, and Tuesday afternoon, I mean, the photos are not photoshopped. It's buildings disappeared. It was just this haze of kind of orange. Yeah, really scary.
Yeah.
So my son's school was canceled today because they didn't want kids going outside or going outside to get to school. So there's no school today. So the air quality is, they advise everyone today not to go outside. So it's pretty serious. Yeah,
that sucks. I mean, unfortunately, how do I say this? In a weird way, the pictures are really cool, right?
Yeah,
but true. I know
it's so apocalyptic. If it was a movie, you'd be like, that's an amazing shot. 100%.
Oh man, I am so excited to have you on for so many reasons. I mean, there's so many things I want to talk about. So if I get ahead of myself and I get too excited, you're like, DaJuan, just chill, because I've never had a EFT practitioner on the podcast. You're the very first. And it was funny because somebody was talking about it in one of our new memberships, the Actor Accelerator community. And so they were talking about someone else doing EFT. And I was like, I have someone for you. And they're coming on the pod next week.
Amazing. Well, I equally feel it's about a million things we could talk about. So vice versa, slow me down as needed as well. So right there.
I love it. Well, okay. First of all, let's just start from the very beginning of this. What is EFT?
Great question. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. Mm-hmm. So it's also known as tapping, because as you're focusing on something that's traumatic, whether it's just an everyday stress or something much more serious, like, God forbid, a car accident or a traumatic event, a childhood event, you're focusing on this while you're tapping on these acupressure points on your face and torso. And what the science shows us is that tapping sends calming signals to your brain. It tells your body you're safe, it's okay, you can relax. And the science shows us that your cortisol, your stress hormone, dramatically decreases. So suddenly that unwanted emotion kind of starts to dissipate, and you get to choose how you want to show up, as opposed to coming from this triggered or habitual place. So it's a really great tool for sort of severe anxiety, phobias, and also just everyday stress or audition anxiety, right? Just moving through these blocks.
Yeah. Okay. This is not therapy for me, everybody. But I got a couple of questions. I've talked a lot about on the podcast over the last, I would say, couple seasons about, being very depressed and not knowing that I was in a depression last year and coming out of it and all that. We talked a lot about that. And one of the things that I worked on in therapy was, getting diagnosed with CPTSD. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but when you were just talking about, you said a traumatic event or, childhood trauma. So that's complex post-traumatic stress syndrome, if anybody doesn't know what CPTSD is. And I'm a lot of it, how I work my way out of it is talking to my nervous system, right? So, I have to regulate my nervous system or else I'm instantly back in a flashback or I'm instantly back in a traumatic event. You know what I mean? I'm there. Yeah. I feel it all over my body. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because you just said something about what EFT is. It is calming signals on the acupressure points. You said this could be helpful for that too.
Yeah, 100%. At its simplest, it is an emotional regulation tool, which is what you literally just said you needed. right?
Yes.
Like, I just need something to give myself a moment to like emotionally regulate right now. And that's one of the common symptoms of CPTSD, right? Of that, and for anyone, just to clarify what that means, if you have PTSD, it tends to be like one event that in tapping, we can work on that one event and then things shift. With complex PTSD, it's years of events, severe things over a long period of time, often in childhood or adolescence. And so there are, not always, but sometimes, people often have one of the symptoms of that is a difficulty with emotional regulation, right? And so it's a really great tool for that. And we tend to, in tapping, approach those two things a little differently too. We go very gently. We go very, we always make sure if there's complex PTSD in play that the client have resources to resource themselves so they can emotionally regulate when needed, right? So you don't traumatize them again. So you're really actively giving them body-based tools to emotionally regulate when they need to. So they feel resourced in that way.
Oh God. Listen, again, it's my podcast, so I get to ask these questions, and hopefully at the end you'll take us through some stuff. But I just want to I want to talk more about that because I think it's just, it's fascinating. It's been understanding where all of my anxiety comes from, or even naming anxiety or having tools to work on it has, I believe, made me, it just made me show up different in the world. Right. But and anybody out there thinking, this isn't that talk, but, just even drinking right in the world. Like I didn't feel like I fit in the AA community, Alcoholics Anonymous, because it doesn't feel like that's what's going on. But when we unlocked the CPTSD and calming my nervous system and all that, I just stopped drinking because I didn't need to. You know what I mean? It's like I was doing that to regulate my nervous system. Yeah. And what if I had some of this EFT to really just help me, tap and do that? Where were you is what I'm really getting at. But that's important. I think that's important because there's a lot of things that you're like, oh, is this and this? And I was like, that doesn't feel like what's happening for me. And, I am all for, and the reason I wanted to have you on, I am excited about finding new ways to regulate my nervous system in life, but also when we're doing auditions, when we're doing self-tapes, when we're on set testing, when those moments.
I haven't acted. I had a great year, 2019, and I left acting actually pre-pandemic, really the end of 2019. And I wish I'd had these tools when I was an actor. Like, I just wish I had these tools. So I love sharing the tools with the actors because it's so helpful. And I wish I'd had them when I was an actor.
So wait a minute, let's back up a second here. I know you as an actress. I don't know you as fully landing the plane, to be an EFT practitioner. So take me back to 2018, 2019, when you're gung-ho, you're full actress, you're doing it still. And then how did we get from there to EFT? What happened? What's going on?
It is a crazy story because, if you had told me, say, 2018 that I would not be an actor anymore and feel great about it, I just would have laughed. It's just wild. I was thinking about it today. So there is there was a major trauma in my life, right, that happened, which I'm happy to talk about. But the story is so absurd. It's like if you heard the story in a movie or saw it in a movie, you'd be like, oh, that's ridiculous. That timing's so absurd. But trigger warning for anyone. There's a big traumatic event coming. But my husband, who was very young, ran the New York City Marathon, Christmas morning, 6 a.m., 2018, has a stroke right after my son opens his presents. My husband is trying on his vest from J. Crew that I got him, and he had a stroke right in front of us. And fast forward almost 5 years, he is okay. But that was obviously a major trauma in our life as a family. And, sidebar, they told us at 6 months, whatever his recovery was going to be, that's where he'd be. And at 6 months, he could barely be left alone. He could speak a little bit. He couldn't do any math, even simple, 2 + 2, very, very cognitively challenged. And now for 4 years, he's just night and day. He's driving, he's doing, he's just amazing. So I just want to give a shout out to the work he's put in to get there, but also that I have huge respect for the medical community. They absolutely saved his life. But if we had listened to them when they told us that where he'd be at 6 months, we would not be where we are today. So back to your question. That year, I mean, to talk about surreal moments. I remember I was literally at my husband's bedside, and it was the end of 2018. It was like right after Christmas. And I was up for this massive commercial with Kevin Bacon. And it was absurd because it was literally like they had like a third callback with like me and 2 other people on like December 23rd or something ridiculous. And it was like the day before Christmas, like an extra callback they had to pay me for. And I remember being like at my husband's bedside. And then my agent was calling about like the update on the commercial. And then it just was just a crazy, obviously just very traumatic time. And that year was just, just intense trauma and figuring out our new normal and working with him. And ironically, I did nothing for my career that year in terms of my own work because I didn't have the space for it. But I ended up booking things anyway. Like I booked 2 co-stars that in 2019. I booked a bunch of print jobs. I booked, some SAG industrials, and I did nothing for my career that year, which was so wild because it was actually a great year for me. I booked a John Bon Jovi music video. I just want to say that publicly because that was very exciting. Never got aired, sadly. But anyway, and at the end of that year, it just didn't fit in my life in the same way. Like I couldn't manage it. Like I couldn't manage auditioning and the timing, and I wanted to be paid for any work I was doing. And I couldn't logistically figure it out. It just didn't, I just felt like it just didn't fit in my world anymore. And then in 2020, and then of course, then it was like, as I'm having this conversation, the pandemic happened and literally like, took it away. And when it took it away entirely, I was like, wow, I don't even miss it. Like it was this weird piece of it. I felt this calling to like figure out what I was going to do now. I was suddenly the sole breadwinner. And I had this gut instinct, like tapping could be it. I was aware of tapping. I'd done a little bit of it kind of badly, to be honest, at that point before I got certified. And I just felt really called to do it. And what makes me a great practitioner, it's all the same skill set as an actor. And it's so fascinating because what makes me a great practitioner is my ability to hold space for people, my deep empathy. And it really is like doing an improv. I have all these tools, all these different techniques as an EFT practitioner. And I go in with every session with like the tools of my lines, right? And I just get to choose, I instinctually choose in the moment, like which tool to use. And it very much feels like this beautiful scene we're doing where I'm kind of leading and we're just kind of ebbing and flowing. And I always used to say as an actor, I remember I did a branding exercise once and he said to me, I think, what you're really good at and the stories you tell, they're always about people who are kind of stuck and dying to break free. And that is exactly what I do as a practitioner. I like help people find when they're out of alignment, where they feel stuck, where they feel blocked, and I help them break through that, which is exactly what the stories I told as an actor. So it just feels like a much more tangible landing of like my purpose, really.
Yeah. And it sounds like if you had not been open to it, you would have been stuck yourself in like, I'm just going to continue to be an actor. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to not move forward in this place of this next calling or this evolution of what you've been doing for the last, time.
And to be completely honest, like it felt like it wasn't a choice also, right? Like it just felt like I just have to, I'm the sole breadwinner now, right? My husband is disabled now and I have to figure that out. And I have a son and, there wasn't a lot of choice there in the sense of I had to figure something out, but it was surprisingly easy. I mean, sometimes it still is strange to me that it was so easy. People will say to me when I first started telling people, oh yeah, I'm not an actor anymore. The first thing most people would say was, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, I feel great. No, it's no problem. I feel great.
Why do we say that?
I don't
I'm going to stop you real quick. And I'm going to say it was a choice. You did have a choice. That's taking, not giving yourself a little bit of credit, right? Because you could have gone to work at a restaurant, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I feel like
could have stayed with acting. You're right.
Could have stayed with acting. You could have gone to a restaurant. Yeah. You could have gone to get a corporate job. There's choice there, right? And if we don't acknowledge the success or the movement there that you made, right, then it's like it's almost diminishes it. And I want to make sure that we don't do that because I think you made an awesome choice.
Thank you. I'm gonna receive that. And I think, and also, talk about nervous system. It took me, I think my nervous system has, with the pandemic, with the trauma, post figuring out all my husband's therapies and that whole experience, it's taken me it took a long time for my nervous system to feel kind of regulated, but EFT was so instrumental in that process. To looking after my nervous system, the number of, in huge transitions always, right? Things come up, beliefs, blocks, all sorts of things. I have shifted so much stuff through EFT, and it's been amazing. And I wish I had some of these things. I wish I'd known as an actor, because I can look back and be like, oh my goodness, that would have saved me so much time and so much, so it's just interesting.
Okay. You keep saying that, but what do you mean by that? Right? Like,
so I'll give you a very specific example. So recently I was doing some group classes for tapping. I do a lot of group classes, and I was feeling like a little out of alignment, because I was feeling like, okay, I've got, for example, if I had a group class at 5:00, I have this instinct to like clear all my afternoon to prepare for it. Right. And I knew cognitively, like, I don't need to prepare that long. I just need to kind of go over my notes and just do it. Like, I've done that so much. And it felt really out of alignment for me. And I thought, it's just like when I was an actor. As an actor, I would get an audition, and say back in the in-person days, I would get the audition. It would be like Wednesday afternoon. Right. And say it's now Monday. I would have the instinct, and sometimes I would do it. Like, I'm going to clear the entire day Wednesday to prepare. I'm going to spend the entire 8 hours. I'm going to learn the lines. I'm going to rehearse. And I would overwork that thing when all I really needed was like maybe an hour to learn the lines, an hour to run it and go do it. Right. And I would just spend like all this time doing it, like so much time. And then I would get like just anxious in the audition. Like it was just like not a great thing. And cognitively, I understood then. I come from a family where it's like, work hard. There's those various things where I knew where it came from, but I could never really shift out of it. Right. Anyway, so then I tapped on, I worked with my own practitioner on this. And when I followed that sensation back in my body, that's that feeling in my body that I get when I have this urge to like, okay, I've got to clear this out. I've got to really prepare this class, right? That kind of like anxiousness in my body, it immediately took me back to this childhood experience, which I knew it was related to, but it was a piece of it that I hadn't quite got before. And when I suddenly would then back at the kitchen table, and my parents, I grew up in England, and my parents really wanted me to go to this one school. And I had to take this exam at 11 and get into this good school. And my parents basically tutored me for like 2 years to get into this school. My mom was a math teacher. She taught me like every week math. She got me to another tutor every week for English. And for like a year and a half, 2 years, I was like studying for this exam. And at that age, I honestly felt that if I did not get into that school, like my parents would not love me anymore. Like I really felt that way as a kid. I never voiced that. They didn't know that, but that's really how I experienced this as a kid. And so this is element. And when I tapped into that, it was like, oh my God, yes, like that's, and if I don't get into that school, then they will not love me anymore. If I don't do well in this group class I'm creating, like they will, it's not safe for my nervous system, because I will not be loved anymore. And I'm like out of the family. Right. And it's something that, again, cognitively, I knew where that behavior came from, but I couldn't shift it until I somatically kind of felt it in my body. And I went back to that feeling of being at the kitchen table, studying for the test, and really kind of gave my inner child what she needed in that moment to kind of complete that trauma cycle, and kind of gave her what she needed in that moment for it to feel complete. My whole relationship to over preparing has changed. Like it just literally, it's like, first of all, it doesn't happen as much. I had a class the other day and I was like, oh, I'll just do that. It just doesn't even come up anymore. I don't have the urge anymore. And even if it does come up a little bit, it's like, oh, there's that part of me. Oh, she's feeling all vulnerable. And it's like, wait, I can just, as you said, talk to that part of me and just say like, oh, it's okay. Whatever happens, I love you anyway. And she quiets down and it's fine. So that's one piece that as soon as I made that thing, I was like, oh, that would have revolutionized how I prepared for auditions and saved me so much time and angst.
Yeah, what I heard there was that if we truncate that just a little bit, it sounds like when you were an actress, right? When you had these moments of worry, of anxiety, of I need to over prepare, and that looked like, and I think a lot of actors can relate to this.
Yeah.
That looked like, because I used to say this about myself when I before I had kids, I used to be like, I'm going to take off work for this audition. We're going to sit.
Cancel everything. Yeah.
I'm going to get a cardigan and I'm going to sit and you know what I mean? And just like with some tea and go over the lines. I don't have that kind of time anymore.
Yeah.
But it sounds like what you did there was you tapped with your practitioner. You guys dove into where that sensation was coming from that brought it up. Am I understanding that right? Brought it up and worked that out. You talked it out. And then now your relationship to these events changed.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Because trauma, we experience trauma through the senses, right? What we see, what we hear, what we feel in our body, what we smell. And so what happens when trauma is still triggering you is that event in your brain is not being kind of categorized correctly. It's almost like it hasn't completed the cycle. So it's still being triggered by something. When I could go back in and and again, the imagination doesn't know the difference, right, between reality and imagining, right? So if I'm really tapping is sending calming signals to the brain. So it's a very gentle technique. As I'm bringing up that memory, talking about that stress, feeling in my body, I'm tapping. So it's sending calming signals to the brain. It's telling my body it's okay, it's safe. I can literally kind of resource myself, that younger version of me in that moment, which then recategorizes that event in my brain as over. I survived, I'm okay. So then it no longer triggers me. Does that make sense?
Oh, does it make sense? It's unlocking so much for me. And I'm sure all the, people who are listening to this as well, but we can literally probably recategorize or introduce a new way of our entire experience for our audition process. From the moment we get those sides, from the time we're in front of the camera, delivering, to the moment afterwards when we feel a certain loss, or maybe we're not seen, or we're not feeling the validation from that moment. All of this can be, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we had a tapping process or a tapping experience, we could really unlock some different things here, because I hear it a lot. DaJuan, how do I get over the disappointment or the feeling of not getting the role or not hearing back about the self-tape or sending it out there? We hear about that. Well, how do I get rid of my nerves when I'm in front of the camera? Because sometimes it goes out, all my lines go out of my head. Or how do I prepare less, right? So it feels like this can be something that we use on the whole entire journey of an actor, if that's
I mean, certainly, in those moments when those nerves are getting in the way, right? Sometimes you can feel nerves and you can use them in the character, and some people like doing that, and you can bring it into the role and bring it into the room, and that's great if that works for you. But if you're feeling that sense of it's getting in the way and this is not helpful, but even just tapping the point without even saying anything just gives a little bit of your nervous system a moment to reset and calm, so you can kind of again just come from a more centered place. And sometimes there's other things are at play, right, around limiting beliefs that are keeping actors stuck, right? I had a client recently who works all the time as an actor, and she feels really confident, but she was now looking for new reps, and it wasn't going how she thought it was going to go, and she suddenly felt like she'd lost her confidence, and she was like, what is going on? I'm super confident normally, but now I feel super weird. I don't know what's happening, right? And for her, we kind of tapped into that magnetic inner child that she'd kind of lost, and kind of activated that part of her, brought that forward so she could experience that part of her somatically, so she could bring that part of her forward again. Wow. Actors, I've worked with actors around money, which is such a common thing, right? Such a common belief around you can do what you love, or you can make money, but doing both doesn't feel true, And so releasing where that belief came from, the events that cause that, or sometimes limiting beliefs can just come from observation, right? Even if nothing happened to you, right? If you just heard your parents say something over and over again, maybe you saw, just over and over again, you just kind of take on that belief as your own, right? You talk about expired beliefs all the time. People just kind of absorb these beliefs, and they're not even yours. You don't want them, but you they feel like they're yours. And so again, you can tap away the events where you heard that, or where the moments you took them on, and choose a new belief in that process.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, I believe we tap into a lot of actors' consciousness of actors past. Do you know what I mean? Before, and we borrow their beliefs
Yes.
without it's almost out without consent there. We're just like take, oh, this is going to be hard, or
Yeah.
money is going to be a thing, or
Yeah.
it absolutely makes sense. That's one of the things why I did codify our audition process with Self Tape Set Book, is because I really wanted to change the way that we relate it to our own audition process, our acting process, all of it as well.
Yeah.
So I am so intrigued even more by the EFT process. And I'm sure, okay. Can I just call it tapping? Because you just say
Yeah.
tapping
Tapping.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
Tapping.
okay. Because sometimes you don't say EFT. And I'm like, when I was doing my research, it said, so I don't want to be like offending the tapping
No,
community.
tapping is great.
Okay.
Although I have told numerous people I'm a tapping practitioner, and they say, wait, you're a tap dancer? And I'm like, no, I'm not a tap dancer.
Yes. Some stuff about guitar did come up earlier when I was looking it up and all that stuff. I was like, I don't think this is the tapping that we're going to be talking about, for that. So I'm really, 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 really intrigued by the nerves, or intrigued by the stuff that it unlocks. And I really am thinking already of like, gosh, I wish I had had some of this when I was on set in my earlier years, before I started like really diving into mindset and shifting a lot of that, and I didn't know how to, what was going on, because a lot of things that happen, and this might not be what you're talking about, so stop me, throw a flag on the play if it's not. I used to feel, it's really weird, by the way, what I'm about to tell you. I used to feel that when I would get a note, that it meant that I was not doing a great job on set, right? It meant that I did not knock it out of the park. But yet also what I was hearing from my other actors, if we didn't get a note, so then I wanted a note, but I actually didn't want a note. But what I'm also hearing in those moments was, I know now that I was dysregulated, that I was playing out a whole thing of like, pick me, choose me, love me in those moments. So what I'm hearing, that's my Meredith Grey Post-it note. I call it the pick me, choose me, choose me, love me moment. So what I want you to walk us through one, maybe if you feel comfortable with it, but I also want to I'm trying to use some real life examples in those moments where you feel like, hey, I didn't get a note and I don't feel like I'm not doing a great job because you didn't give me a note. Or if you gave me a note, I'm like, I also feel like I didn't do a great job. In those moments when actors are feeling stuff like this on set, we sit and get still and we start tapping.
Yeah. So I mean,
She says, yeah, like it's so simple, y'all.
I booked a lot of co-stars. My first and actually only guest star was on a show called The Mysteries of Laura. And I was so nervous on set, like I didn't enjoy it. It was like my first guest star and I was so stressed. It was just like, I didn't even enjoy it. So yeah,
Wait, why were you so stressed though?
Because it was before I had this work, and it was just like, I was nervous about forgetting lines, and I just was anxious. It was that same, I just want to do a good job, right? I think there was a lot of me, I've healed a lot of this over the last few years, and I didn't realize at the time, but I think there was a lot of proving my worth, right? And I just think I just wanted to prove myself, and I wanted to do a good job. And so it made me tense and nervous.
Yeah.
So to your point, I think the first thing, it's so simple, is when we get into a place of anxiousness, once we get in our head, and that's what I did on set that day, I remember, it's like, there's no escape once you're in your head. That your head is just going to keep just going and going. And it's like, there's no escape there. So I think the invitation is always to get into the body. Yeah. So it's like, okay, if I'm in my head suddenly like, oh my God, I didn't get a note. Maybe I don't want a note, right? You're in your head about it. It's like, just drop into your body. Just like put your hands on your heart and just like notice where that anxiety is in your body, right? Maybe you feel it as like energy in your head. Maybe you feel it in nausea in your stomach. Just check in where it shows up in your body, right? And maybe there's a color there. Maybe there's a shape, there's a speed, whatever, however you can kind of just describe it in your mind's eye. And then you can just tap You could just tap the collarbone point. I'll talk about it in a moment exactly where that is. And just breathe into that. Wherever you feel that energy, just tap on that collarbone point and just breathe into it. And just allow that part of you just to shift. And they're not forcing anything. We're just inviting it to soften a little bit. And just breathe into it. And you can do it for as long as you need to. If you know the points, you can certainly like move through all the points as you just tune into that physical energy. And then if you want, you can also just like these parts of us or these emotions are just messengers, right? So you can just ask that part of you, like, what do you need right now? Right? Just in your mind's eye, just asking that energy what it needs. And maybe it just needs a moment of reassurance. Maybe it just needs to be heard for a moment. Maybe it just needs to be like, I'm scared. And just be, okay, I get it. I hear you. You're scared right now. Okay. I hear you. Right. But that just starts you. That's the first thing I would suggest. It's super gentle and it just moves you from the head to the body, because then we can shift things in the body. Once you're in your head, like it just gets worse. It just spirals, or you're just kind of denying stuff. You're pushing things away and you're not moving anything out or through you. You're just kind of like pushing it down and ignoring it, basically.
I felt better already in the moment, and I'm not even back there. I just stopped for a second. I was like, wait. All right, I'm the host of this. I gotta come back to you.
So I just want to say, maybe we'll put like a tapping PDF under the recording so people can see. But just so I can see it, the collarbone point is if you find kind of the U-shaped bone of your collarbone, there's two like divots there, and it's sort of about an inch down and then an inch over. And there's like this dent there, like in between kind of the two bones. It's like a little dent, maybe a little bit sore. So that's the tapping points. And you don't have to do both. You can do one side. So you can just rub it or you can tap there. I'm probably right in the microphone. It's probably horrible sound for you right now. But that's the collarbone point. So just the listeners.
Is it on the collarbone? Everybody, you have to go see this on YouTube. You know, and you have to go see it as well on YouTube. But also, if you're listening and walking, I will make sure.
We'll put like a PDF. I'll send you a PDF of where the points are, and you can do that. You could do the side of the hand. That's an easy one. You can do whatever point resonates with you. I like the collarbone point because you can do it over clothes. You know, there's nothing to be self-conscious about. Your hands don't have to be clean because you're not touching your face, right? If you have makeup on and you're on set, it might be hard to touch your face, but the collarbone is generally one that you can access. And if you have any self-consciousness about it, no one even knows you're doing anything. They just see you kind of, your hands on your chest, not a big deal. So that's one of my favorites.
Like the wrist one.
Yeah, that's great too. Yeah.
Like that one is probably.
And you can even tap them together like this if that feels good. Some people like that.
It feels like that's in another language that's saying something else.
Yeah.
So we're going.
Okay. We'll table that one.
We're thinking on that. So I feel like that.
So it's just the side of the hand, and you can just use 4 fingers and just tap. Well, you can use the flat of your hand. That's fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, that one calms me. You know.
Yeah. A lot of people have just like a favorite point like that. That just for some reason their body's just like, yes, that one. I like that one. Just
a favorite one. So I'm okay. Before I really ask you, to take me through one of these, just like an exercise on this. What about like future desperation? What do I mean by that?
Yeah, tell me more. What do you mean by that?
Because I hear a lot of people, a lot of my actors we work with, like, I got to book this series regular. It's series regular or not. If I don't book this next guest star and all that. And I feel like it's a little bit of there's desperation in that, instead of just like unlocking, like, here, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. That's a different space. But I wonder if there is any way, because you're attracting more of what you don't have.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say there. So how would we unlock?
Yeah. So I mean, if I was working one-on-one with someone and they came in with that, we would probably follow that feeling back into an earlier event where something happened where they needed validation or something happened where that came from, right? Like we might go deeper. But what I would say is an easy way that anyone can do if they're feeling that, or any listener can do, is is called the choices method, which was invented by a practitioner called Pat Carrington. And it's 3 rounds, and it just embraces what you're feeling now and how you want to choose to feel. Mm-hmm. Right. And the first round is just on the unwanted feeling. So it just looks like, even though I'm feeling so desperate and I really want to book this guest star, I'm just acknowledging everything I'm feeling. I want it so bad. I just really, really want it. I feel so desperate, right? We're just acknowledging that part, right? The second round then is what you're choosing. So I would say, how do you want to relate to this guest star? I want to feel trust. I just really want to trust my jobs are undeniable, or I want to invite in trust. Great. I choose to trust. I choose to trust my process. I choose to trust that my jobs are perfect, whatever they're choosing, right? Using their language, right? Whatever they want to choose. And then the third round is combining the two, which just looks like, even though part of me feels so desperate for this job, I choose to trust that my jobs are my jobs. Even though part of me feels so desperate, I choose to invite in trust. Even though part of me does feel desperate. Maybe that part will always feel desperate. I choose to invite in trust anyway. A part of me does feel desperate. But you know what? That's okay. I choose to trust that the right jobs will come to me, right? So it's not denying. So that's just a very mini version of, full 3 rounds of that. But so it's not denying what you're feeling, but is acknowledging that that's a part of you. And we can also have another part of us that's like, does trust, right? And that we're complex. It's not simplistic. It's not you're 100% desperate. You're like, a part of you is desperate. The other part of you knows that your jobs are undeniable, right? And so in that way, we can acknowledge what we're feeling and choose something else, or choose to focus on that part of us. Because, there's a great analogy where there's a scout goes into a scout's job is to warn the army, right? And the scout looks for danger and then comes back to the army and says, there's danger here and there's danger here. And if the army's like, go away, don't talk to me, the scout's like, no, you don't understand. It gets louder, right? It's like, you don't understand, there's danger over here and there's danger over here, right? And those scared parts of us, if we don't listen to them or we push them away, they just get louder. Right? If the scout comes to the army and is like, there's danger over here and there's danger over here, and the army's like, okay, thank you so much. Okay, got it. Okay, great. Okay, the scout's like, great, I've done my job. Whew, I'm going back to bed. Right? And our amygdala is that way. So if you're feeling triggered, which is what's happening, if you're desperate for that job, your nervous system is like, I feel unsafe. I need this job. Right? Yeah. So in that choices method, you get to acknowledge hear the scout, hear the danger. I hear you. Yes, a part of me does feel desperate. And that's okay. I choose this. So that's why I love that one, because I think it's really empowering. It's a really gentle technique, so anyone can do it. You're not going to enter any past events or any trauma. You're just acknowledging how you feel. You're telling the body it's safe, and you're also choosing how you want to show up.
Yeah, I think this is also a good time to remind, or to just say on this, that, neither myself or Sarah, we are not therapists, and we believe in therapy, both of us, because I know you do. 100%. And, make sure it sounds like I always say, don't go in your mind alone,
yes,
don't go in
agree.
your mind alone. And, if you need some resources with a therapist or something like that, SAG has them. I have some too.
Yeah. And I agree. If tapping on everyday things, great by yourself, but always seek, the support of an EFT practitioner or a therapist. If you want to delve into early events, trauma, past events, I would always say do that with a practitioner. And to be honest, even if you just want to learn to tap for your own just everyday life, I would always just recommend a couple of sessions with a practitioner just to really learn the techniques, because there's a lot of YouTube videos out there. And there's a lot of terrible tapping YouTube videos out there. And, just take the time to learn. If you want to learn the modality, learn from someone who's certified and really knows what they're doing, just to really learn the technique properly.
I'm 120% behind you. I was just thinking I should be using tapping when I'm parenting.
It's so kids, they're using it more and more in schools now. I'm actually going into my son's school and doing a class with them. It was on the Today Show with tapping for kids recently, and kids love it because it's so empowering for them. Like they get to tap and breathe through their emotions, and it gives them a tool to emotionally regulate. It's super empowering for kids. And I worked with teenagers who have test anxiety and things, and it's great for them. So, and it's great. It's great for me as a parent. I tap before any kind of difficult conversation with my son, or any conversation around homework. So
Well, that's good. That's good because I
Because I
always
have to emotionally regulate, right? Like
Mhm.
my job as a parent is like, I'm going to model what emotional regulation looks like. And I'm going to show up to this conversation emotionally regulated. He may or may not be emotionally regulated because he's 13, but it's my job to stay emotionally regulated. So yeah.
Yeah. One of the things is I'm having this conversation with you because I love talking about artists and we're on the Think Bigger Actors podcast, but it definitely does now sound like we can use it in every part of our lives. So, if we're working with the EFT practitioner, it's going to spill over, it's like, that's like
Yes.
the added benefits
Yeah.
of it. So just because I'm bringing it back to like artists, it's because I'm always trying to figure out ways for everyone to get more success in their career. And I believe that, even just every part of this sounds like we could be bringing this into our career and getting the benefits of it. What popped up for me clearly was negotiating contracts.
Oh.
There is that little bug that comes in. If I ask for what I want, they will say no and not give me the role. We really just unlock that or tap on that is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
If we regulate, my nervous system, I can say, well, with the 3 rounds and choices, I'm really scared I'm going to lose this job. Yeah. Oh gosh, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to put it into practice what you just said right now. Like, I'm really scared I'm going to use this job. I really, 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 really want to act. And oh my God, I don't want to lose it so much. And then that would be the first round. Yeah. And the second round is, but I get to get paid for
I deserve to be paid.
I deserve to get paid for what I'm, you know what I mean? What's another way of looking at this, or I could just really go down that road of, you said, of what would I want to choose? Yeah.
How do I want to choose to relate to this?
How do I want to choose to relate to this event? Like, okay, great. What if, I relate to, they're going to see how worthy I am or how much I deserve this. And they're going to be like, yes, DaJuan, right? Like, that's what I want to choose. And then the third round would be, as we're tapping, I would just say, I'm a little bit nervous about asking for more money, but I think they are going to be like, what? You definitely get this money, right? And so it feels like what I'm in this short amount of time, and what I'm getting from this is I can utilize this in so many different areas of my career.
Yes. Procrastination, that's a great one too. If you procrastinate on that scary email to your agent or that, I don't know, marketing thing you're trying to do or whatever it is, like procrastination is a great thing because procrastination is the same, something in what you're doing that's scary. And instead of just getting really productive and deciding that now is the perfect time to clean that bathroom, right? It's just like, oh, even though I'm really scared to send this email, right? It's like, you just again, allow those feelings to move through you. And even though either two things are going to happen. Either you're going to be like, you're going to tap for a minute and you're going to be like, okay, it's fine. I'm just going to send the stupid email and you're going to do it. Or potentially you might be like, wow, I didn't realize how scared I am. I'm really nervous. I did not realize I'm really freaked out about that. Wow, what do I need right now? I'm going to draft the email right now. I'm going to sleep on it and I'm going to send it tomorrow, right? So it's like, but it moves you into action by just allowing those feelings to move through you, right? And emotions are just messengers. And so we can just like allow them to move and shift. And the body knows how to move them and knows how to heal when we put it in the right space. And tapping does that because it allows the body to calm and to feel safe.
Great. So I'm walking into your office and I'm knocking in your virtual door. That was me knocking, everybody. That was literally
it was a very quiet knock.
It was a very quiet knock because I have an amazing mic, that doesn't pick up all the other sounds. But, I'm knocking on the virtual door and I come in, you say, come in. And I say to you, you would say to me, why am I here? What would you say if I walked into your virtual space?
Well, in this virtual experience, you would have already done an intake form. So I would probably know what you wanted to work on ahead of time.
Okay.
But so yes.
You read on my virtual intake form that I am really feeling like self-tapes right now are not working and that I am just sending them out into a void. I'm tired of doing them.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would do with almost any client is before we even work on the issue, we work on the feelings around the issue. Because I can guarantee you that if you're feeling like, oh, I just don't want to do the self-tapes anymore, there's either frustration or there's shame around like, I should like them, I don't like them, I've been really trying to like them and it's not working. So the first thing I always do is we work on releasing the feelings around the issue. Does that make sense? So it might look like, so it might just be like, so it sounds like there's a lot of frustration around, self-tape's not working for you right now. Like, how do you feel about that? And maybe you would say, oh, I just feel so just embarrassed because like everyone's really great at them and I'm just terrible about it.
And I just love the room.
Yeah.
I love just going in the room and auditioning, right?
Yeah, I'm better in the room, right?
In the room.
Yeah, exactly. So then we just start off by acknowledging that. It's a technique called sneaking up, which is kind of like that scout. We're just allowing that part of you to speak and give it some space, because a lot of times you also just push that part down, right? We don't let it speak. And so I think of it as like undoing the pressure cooker a little bit. So it might just look like, even though I'm doing self-tapes and I feel like I'm really bad at them, I'm just better in the room. I'm open to accepting myself anyway. Even though we always start off on the side of the hand with these kind of acceptance phrases, even though I feel like I'm awful at self-tapes, I just feel like I'm so much better in the room. I have so much compassion for myself, right? And we do that 3 times. We just go through like, I hate self-tapes. Oh, I'm so much better in the room, right? And after you do a few rounds, generally what happens is it's like, I'm not that bad at them. I'm not the best, but I'm not that bad. I did do one really well a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I did a really great one, right? And it just like, it takes the steam off.
Yeah.
Like it just undoes the pressure cooker. And so that's what we do first. Like it's always just about that first. And then we're going to dive into a more specific event. So tell me, when was the last time you did a self-tape that you really just felt horrible about? And we're going to work on that event. And we're going to bring that up and we're going to move through that event. And then maybe we would, if it relates to something, maybe we would get back, we would trace that feeling in the body, maybe to an earlier issue, depending. But I keep it really in a first session. It's all about resourcing the client, keeping it super gentle and just allowing them to learn the modality. And really the first session generally is releasing all the feelings about the issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. It's interesting. I try not to all the time access so many of those emotions that, a lot of actors feel about self-tapes. And so, because I don't want it in my space.
Yeah, totally get it.
You know what I mean? Because I understand that this is what's going on right now. But bringing that into this talk was just very illuminating. Wondering what else are they feeling? Wondering, you said embarrassment and shame and all that stuff. It was just very eye-opening for me also, because I don't know that I dive that deep into it. I'm like, well, this is what we have to do right now. But I love the way you broke it down with EFT and was just like, okay, here's how we're going to get there, step by step by step. And I think it's just another beautiful process to help get over some hurdles or some roadblocks to get to the dreams that they want.
Yeah, because we have so many of the time with anything, we have an issue or a block, right? And then we make it worse by having beating ourselves up for having the issue, right? And so that makes it so much worse. That is actually that shame, that embarrassment, that stuff, that's actually worse than the issue.
Yeah.
In terms of so that's the stuff we have to work on first, for sure.
I love that. Sarah, I could talk to you all day long about this. I really, 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 really could. I think that, having a tapping session with you and seems like something that I need to maybe do. I just want to ask you before I let you go, what are the tapping points? Are there 9? Are there 10? I saw you did one on top of
So the basic recipe, and I can show you the basic recipe. There are alternate points that I use and that practitioners use, but the basic ones are the first one is just the side of the hand. And, the basic recipe is we always just do 3 statements on the side of the hand that are around acceptance or compassion, right? The irony of change is that we can't change anything without first kind of accepting where we're at. So we always do 3 statements here. And then the other point is the top of the head, which is if you put your thumbs at the top of your ears, where what his fingers at, your middle finger touch. It's like a tiny indentation at the top of your head. That's the top of the point. You can either just do a flat hand like that, or you can use your fingers. This is one of the points on YouTube that I see people doing this. They do this, and that's totally useless because it misses the point entirely. Okay, then we have the eye points, which is right at the beginning of the eyebrow, right on the bone. Right there, I'm just so I can see you. Yeah, perfect. Right at the beginning of the eyebrow, right on the bone. And we'll put a PDF so viewers can see, the listeners. And then we have the side of the eye. Again, it's right on the bone here. So you want to make sure you're right on that bone, right next to the eye, on that ocular bone. You're right on that bone. I'm giving you the finger. I apologize. There we go. And then another under the eye point. So this is under the eye, and it's right on that bone. You can actually feel the divot in the bone. It's right under the pupil. You can see that little divot. So that's where you're tapping right there. This is just stay here. It's so relaxing. Okay, and then we have the under the nose. So that's just like halfway under the nose, off the lip. And then we have the chin, right in the divot there. And then we have the collarbone, which again, the top of that U-shaped bone, about an inch down, inch over. Everyone's a little bit different, but you'll feel that little divot there. Personal favorites. And then the last point of the basic recipe is the under the arm. So if you put your hands like under your arm, it's like right where the bottom of your hand touches. So you can either do it kind of like monkey style, or you can cross over, tap. Like just kind of slap your sides of the hands too. This is probably terrible for your sound. Apologies. And they sound like elephants just like thumping around.
I love that. I love that we have all those spots. And it's interesting because I think you do have a favorite, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was my hand when I was doing it, and then all of a sudden I did my temple where the ocular
side of the eye. Yeah, it's not your temple. That's definitely a YouTube mistake too. It's like right on the bone. Right. Now you're not going to hurt yourself if you don't tap, but the science does show that if you're tapping on the acupressure point, results are completely different. So you're not going to get the same results if you miss the point. So yeah.
You know, I want to know as we go out here, if you could say the benefits of this just in one, like, you know, just one nice little package for actors, you know, what would you say? We talked about so many of them, but what would you say to an actor?
The phrase that just popped into my head, I'm just going to go with that, is that tapping brings you into alignment so you can show up how you want to show up.
I mean, you just came up with that by like right now.
It just popped into my head. When you first started talking, I was like, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to say here. This seemed, how can I come up with one sentence? But then that popped into my head. So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah. Tapping allows you to show up in alignment. How did you say that?
Tapping brings you into alignment so you can show up how you want to show up.
And not these other versions of like what you're trying to present.
Yeah.
Just fully yourself in alignment.
Yeah. And that's what I feel like when clients come to me, it's like, I don't know, it's just like there's this block. I want to get to the next level and I can't, and I feel like it's me, but I don't know what it is. And it's like, they don't know how to language it. Sometimes it just feels like they're out of alignment. And I feel like tapping just gets you back in alignment.
Well, you know, Sarah, I'm never going to let you out of my life. I just wonder if
I got my mug right here.
I love it. Wonder if I can, you know, get you to come into the Actor Accelerator community and maybe tap with those people, you know, let them know what's going on, because it's just so good. It's just so good.
Anytime. I can already see the first exercise. You do this like beautiful resource exercise around just like resourcing them with like what's called like their safe space, which you can then access anytime for that place of safety for your nervous system. So first exercise, already know what I do. So.
Done. Join the Actor Accelerator community to get a piece of that. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate you.
You're so welcome. It was such a joy chatting.
This has been hard. Did I lie to you? Wasn't Sarah great? Sarah was great, but I just want to talk about us for a second. Can we just pull up a chair and talk about us and all the stuff that's going on? We've pretty much been on strike since March of 2023. Yes, I know it officially started in May of 2023, but everything started to slow down at the end of March, kind of like a de facto strike, if you will. And I have two businesses that are intertwined with this industry: my career as an actor and my coaching business, a career that I've spent years building. And I know some of you feel that. We've spent years building this business, a career that I felt that like was finally taking off before the pandemic, finally just going the way I wanted it to go, then COVID. Then I restarted myself. I worked through some pretty intense personal stuff. Like I said, last year was pretty hard, including grieving a show that ended after 7 seasons, 7 years. We actually were on it for 8 because of the pilot before we knew it picked up, and trying to figure out my new identity after all of that. I mean, nobody tells you it's going to be insanely hard when you have to let go of a character you played for 7 seasons. All we talk about is booking the role and how great that feels. But it's been rough. It's been rough. And a lot of times, if I'm being insanely transparent, like I love to be with you and honest, there have been many times during these last couple of years where I thought, well, I did it. I've done it. Maybe it's time to start something new. We've done it. I am good. I've hit my, on a show. I've been on a show for 7 seasons. Great. What else is possible? We're going to do something else. But all I can say is it's been challenging because then the strike came. And I had to dig deep. I stayed in my lane, booked again. After the pandemic, I booked again, got super freaking close to a series regular. But when the strike hit, I found myself feeling a lot of the same feelings I felt a couple years ago. But this time, I was watching so many of our brothers and sisters leave the industry. I got dropped again, like I said, from one of my top agencies during this time. But here's what I'll say. But through all of this, through all the sadness, anxiety, the frustration, and anger I feel, and I do feel all of those things, there's hope. Hope that we will have an industry, a career that is sustainable for all of us. Not just some of us, but all of us. The industry was not working for all of us before, and I hope it will work for more of us coming up. The industry, the way it was, the way AMPMTPFLMNOPKURG wants it to stay, actually would have only made it a side hustle for us. Acting would be only a side hustle for us, for over 90% of actors. I know you don't want to hear that we are in the same boat. I hate that saying too. We're all in the same boat. So I'll just say this. We are in the same storm. I don't know your situation, but I am feeling the effects of all of this in my way, in my boat, in this storm. And I'm working really, really hard as the mindset guy to see this as opportunity, to see this in a field of dreams or metal. And I know a lot of people out there are like, toxic positivity. That's not what I'm doing here. What I actually am doing is looking for the opportunity here. I'm actually shifting and looking for the positive here instead of just wallowing in the negative, because that's a choice too. We needed this strike to happen. I wish we didn't. Nobody wants to go on strike. But we did, because AMPTP wasn't just handing over fair deals. This is part of our journey. I went through the big writer's strike of 2008. That was 100 days. Oof. Most people don't make it because they don't prepare for the journey. Here's what I learned when the strike of 2008, the writer's strike was over and the industry started to turn again, just like it will start to turn again for us as well. There are going to be a lot of hurry up and waits in this business. Getting all your materials ready and then the industry stops, that's one of them. A lot of false starts that can leave you angry and confused. Being number 4 on a call sheet of a major network film and then it doesn't translate into something bigger afterwards, or being on a show for 7 seasons and you're working hard and then it doesn't translate into something bigger because we're in a strike and you feel like you're just back in the hustle. That's a hurry up and wait. That's a lot of false starts. But here's what I know you can do. Surround yourself around the right mentors, the coaches, the actors that will shoulder all of this with you. Resting when you need it is another thing. Blocking out all the noise, taking care of yourself. Getting super clear on what you want on the other side of all of this. And remembering that this will just be a blip on the radar in your long 60-year career that I'm calling in existence for you. How's that sound? How's that for positivity? You are a part of my tribe in the pandemic and in this strike, a lull, a win, a booking, wherever. You're part of my tribe. And I'm here to say, don't quit. Don't get out of line. Borrow my faith in you. I'm rooting so big for you, and I am still so obsessed with your success. I still am. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. A lot of what feels like momentum, and then things come to a complete standstill, leaving you devastated. Being, director, I've been there. There is going to be a lot of this in the industry. There are going to be so many things in this industry that are out of your control. But if you can have the foresight to prepare for the journey, that 60-year journey, keep your eye on the ball, not get discouraged, be careful of energy vampires, be careful of crazy makers in your life, and re-up your faith in your vision over and over again. Go take that side job if you need to right now. I want you to know you are not at a standstill. You haven't lost anything. You are on the right path. Because this is the journey of being in the industry for 60 years. Not just 6 years, not just 6 minutes, not just 6 months, not just 6 weeks, 60 years. So here's what I hope you're doing during this hiatus, because that's what I'm calling it, a hiatus. You're continuing to surround yourself around the right tribe. I'm going to say this one more time. Don't quit. Don't get out of line. Borrow my faith in you. And my faith, strong. That's it. That's it for this episode, for the D12 shot, for the Think Bigger Actors podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and this D12 shot, I hope you'll consider following me on Instagram and the TikTok at Think Bigger Coaching. Think Bigger Coaching. And if you want to, work with me in the Think Bigger tribe, check us out. Check us out with all the show links below this episode or at thinkbiggercoaching.com. We got the Actor Accelerator going on. Join me in my membership where you can get direct coaching, from the team. I'm rooting so hard for you. Yeah, for you.